Hello.
Hello.
I am so excited, guys. Tonight we have a very special guest. I'm going to jump right into her bio and we're going to get into these questions. So here we go. This evening I have with me Tierashia Adair. And she is a wife, a mother of three who resides in Prairie View, Texas. She is a purpose driven woman of faith who loves God and people. She is an ordained minister, a speaker, an author, a writer, a faith and purpose mentor for women, and an educational consultant. She loves to encourage, educate, and empower people in all that God has purposed her to do. She does this as a natural part of her daily life and through the products and services she provides through her for profit business and her nonprofit. The for profit is Adair Enterprises, LLC, and the nonprofit is A Message of Love, Incorporated. Her background and training and experience in education, for which she served 14 years as a public school elementary teacher. She also has a degree in theater arts, drama, a minor in business administration, and two master's degrees in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis in reading instruction and also special education. So when I say I could interview her for like five different things, maybe seven, like it's there. So I am super excited to have her share, but we are going to focus on just two things for our creative interview. And we are going to be talking about her journey and her experience as a writer and an author. So without further ado, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brittany, for having me on today. I am so excited about this interview. And so I'm ready to dive in. So let's do this.
Yes. Okay, here we go. So my first question is kind of like a precursor to just telling people where are you from?
Well, I am from a little bitty town called Hempstead, Texas. And so
Okay.
it has about maybe about 5,000 people now. But back then it had about 3,000 people. And so very small town. I grew up in a very small town. So that's where I'm from, Hempstead, Texas. And I ended up moving over 5 miles down the road to Prairie View, Texas, which is also another small town. So yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So, and the reason why I like to ask that is because I never know who's going to come across this. And since my content is about creating a new story, I always want people to know no matter where you come from, what family you come from, school, whatever the case may be. Here's somebody from maybe a big place or a small place, but look at what they've been able to accomplish. So that's
I
why I
love it.
asked.
I love it.
Okay, so now into our questions about you as a writer and an author. How long have you been a writer?
I have been a writer almost my whole life. And so
Okay.
if you subtract about 8 years or 7 years, hey, I've been a writer all of that time because I started writing when I was probably about 8 years old. I started writing,
Okay.
and I've always loved school. I've always loved learning. My mom used to always tell me, she's like, I know you didn't get your smarts from me because she was like, I just did enough to barely get by in school, but education was always important to me. And so I
Yeah.
loved reading and writing more than anything else. And so I've always, basically, for the most part, you could say I've always been a writer. And so not an author, but a writer. So almost all of my life.
And then what about the author? How long have you been an author?
I've been an author since 2000, officially 2019. So, and
Oh
now it's
wow.
2024. So I published
Okay.
my first book in 2019. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So the reason why I'm surprised at that is because if you see the spread of books that she had, it's not like it's just one. So that's why I was like, oh wow, really? So that's
Oh yeah.
awesome. Did your upbringing influence you being a writer and an author, or was that just something you just kind of discovered that, hey, I can make something out of this?
It was definitely something I just discovered,
Okay.
I always knew I was different. I always felt like I was, out of place, but yet I was exactly where God would have me to be. But I just always knew I was different, and I always knew that I was creative. I was always making something, designing something, reading something, writing something. Always as a child. And so I've I've always like did that on my own. Like my mom, she didn't really, like nurture me in that, neither my dad. And so it's just something that I picked up on my own, because I've always been a self-motivated learner as well. Like my parents didn't have to like tell me to do my homework or tell me to do certain things, because I wanted to do those things. I was self-motivated to do those things. I wanted to excel, and I didn't need, their encouragement to do that. I wanted that personally for myself. But as far as like the creative gifts that I have, they were something that I discovered, and I won't even necessarily say on my own, but God revealed them to me. But at the time, I really wasn't confident in them, even though I was passionate about them, because I didn't have like people around me saying, oh, you could really do these things and excel in them in life. And then I grew up in a small town, so there were not a lot of opportunities for me as, either. And so had I had a different environment where I was exposed to like more of the arts, there's no telling how much further along I would be. But God knew the journey that I needed to take. And so I'll leave it at that. So
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. I have a question, but I'm going to wait to see if you answer. If not, hopefully I remember and I'll
okay.
come back to it. Okay. How has being a writer and an author positively impacted your life?
It has positively impacted my life, because it's brought me to a place. And I need to back this up first. First of all, because I need to go back to my childhood, because that's where it began. Writing
Okay.
for me was therapy as a child. I
Easy.
felt like I could not adequately express myself verbally. So I wrote. I wrote poems, I wrote letters, I wrote in a diary, I wrote short stories. I wrote. And that was my way of letting things out. I grew up in an era where, parents were like, you be quiet, you just shut up, the child, you only have a certain place as a child, and you can only say so much. So I internalized a lot of things, and had I not had the avenue of writing, I probably would just explode it, and I had my moments when I did do that. But writing afforded me a place where I felt like I could be heard, even if I was only telling the page. And then later on, when I finally accepted that, you know what, I have these gifts and I cannot ignore them, and they keep coming to the top surface, and I have to do something with them. And the closer that I got with God, the more he began to reveal to me that I am supposed to be writing. I am supposed to be using the creative gifts that he's given me. From like, I would write plays, skits. I still do that to today. Um, and so it has positively impacted my life, because it's given me confidence. Like, I have a gift. I have something valuable to offer the world. I have a creative way in which I can help bring people to Christ. I have a creative way in which I can be an agent for God to bring healing, deliverance, encouragement. And that's a very strong gift of mine, exhortation, encouragement. And so writing has afforded that for me. And about a few years ago, God made it very clear to me how serious this gift of writing is. He said, and at that particular time, and I just feel like I have to share this right now, I had, I was new into entrepreneurship. I served 14 years in the four walls of a classroom. My whole life revolved, unfortunately, around the classroom. I would actually say that like the school was my first home, and my actual home was my second home, unfortunately. And so I didn't know anything beyond that, even though I had gifts, and, we put on Black History program and stuff like that. But I had to come to a place where I knew God was calling me to do something different beyond those walls, still educating people. But now I'm not just the four walls, what I call the four walls educator. Now I'm an educator to the world. using the creative gifts I have to educate people as well. And so I own my gift now. God told me, he said, I had my website up, and he said one day, he said, take those t-shirts, because I was trying to do it all, because I'm interested in so many things. But he was like trying to really get on me about like honing in on certain things. And so I had t-shirts on my website and all of that. And the Holy Spirit said, take those t-shirts off of your website. And he said it so firmly. And I was like, oh, I know you're not playing. Okay. So I literally called my website designer, like I emailed her. It was on a Saturday night. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I was like, please remove those t-shirts off of my website, because God said they should not be on there. And Sunday morning, she had them removed. He said, I have called you to be a voice for such a time as this, vocally and in written form. And then he said, write, write, write. And then even more than speaking, I'm to be writing. And then later on, he would continue to expound on that. And he was like, he showed me so many books. He was like, you will be publishing for the rest of your life. So I told people I'm be a 90-year-old woman still publishing books, Look, I'm still be publishing books at 90-some years old, right? And he showed me like I will publish so much that I could have my own bookstore. And so even now I'm working on some things behind the scenes. So I have some babies to birth this year. And so I love the gift of writing. I love sharing it with others. I'm not ashamed to use my gifts anymore like I used to be. And so I'm going to leave it at that, because then we might not make it to the other questions.
That is exactly what I was going to ask. You answered it. I was going to ask you, how did God like reveal this to you? And you just answered it. So that was perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you think your writing and being an author is impacting the people you come in contact with, or who buy your products, or even maybe people who just see what you do online? How do you think
Yeah.
that's impacting them?
Definitely in a positive way. And I will say this. It's changed my books. My books are changing lives. Even my writing is changing lives. I post on Facebook. I post like daily words of encouragement, my what I call my prayer for you, and I write those things out. And sometimes they can be quite lengthy, but people read them, and people privately message me and say, whatever you do not stop sharing that. And so even back when I was a child and I was writing, I would I would sing my songs to people. And so they knew that I wrote. I would read some of my short stories to them. And I actually had started writing novels, but I was going through some stuff. So they weren't exactly the nicest, novels and stuff like that. But I was writing nonetheless. And then because I was going through so much pain, I went through being, having low self-esteem, being suicidal, going through depression, being molested, bullied, and all of these things. And so again, the writing was an avenue. It was my therapy. It helped me express myself, because I felt like I didn't have anyone that I could tell these things to who really would listen to me, and take me serious about these things. So I would cry and write. And I remember when I was in high school, I had my notebook, my spiral notebook, because that's what I wrote in. And I shared a few poems with one of my classmates, and she began reading them in class. And she said, do you mind if I take these poems home and read them? Because it was a notebook full of poetry.
Yeah.
And I will admit that back then, because of what I was going through, a lot of the poems were like kind of sad. And they were from a point like where I was angry and I was spilling things out and just sharing how I really felt, because I needed to tell someone, but I couldn't tell someone. So I had to tell something. I had to tell the page. And so she went home ready, because I didn't think about her stealing anything like that. That was not the vibe at all. And she didn't do that, but she brought it back, and she was like, she wrote me a letter, and she said, thank you so much for your authenticity, for sharing your poetry with me. I can relate to it so much. And this young lady, my classmate, we were classmates, same grade. She was super intelligent. I remember people, talking about her and things like that, her being bullied too. And for her to say that, really just gave me confidence and a sense of peace that, listen, even in the midst of my pain, God is using my pain to minister to other people, to help them. And so even back then, I knew that God had a great calling on my life to, help bring healing and deliverance to people, but in a creative way. And then this is something too, because I would write poetry. I would write poetry for boyfriends and girlfriends. So when they were having, relational problems, I would write poetry. They would come talk to me. Like I call myself the uncertified or unlicensed counselor. Okay. Because I just have a natural gift of counseling people. People naturally talk to me about all kinds of stuff. Like there are some things I would take to my grave. But that's the trust that people, have in me to counsel them and advise them. But I would write poetry to bring couples back together or to express what they felt like they couldn't express to the person, and they would have me deliver it. And it's so interesting because God would bring things, full circle, because he's reminded me in recent years. He's like, remember you used to do these things? He's like, now fast forward, you can offer these as services from your business. People still love people writing poetry for them for a wedding. Can you write a poem? Okay, tell me your situation. Write a poem for you. Write a skit. Okay, come on now. We don't get to watch movies and stuff without the writer writing the script, right? So the plays we see, on the stage, a professional stage, Broadway, all of those things, a writer had to write the script first. And so, anyways, I've really come to just own my gift and not be ashamed to talk about it, not be ashamed to put myself out there, to the point where people, they start reaching out to me like, can you help me do this? And I'm like, look, I help you, but you gotta be serious about it. And look, and the free days are over. Because I'm like, look, when you serve most of your time free, it's like, baby, I pay the cost to be here where I am. If you really knew what I suffered, because that's the right word to term it, if you really knew what I suffered to get to where I am, it cost me more than even what money can buy.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna leave right there, because listen, being an ordained minister, look, I don't want to start preaching on here, but I can naturally go that way. But I'll leave it right there. We can move on to the next question.
Okay. So I was just letting you talk. I'm like, hey, go.
Hey,
Okay. I think you kind of answered this, but if you have anything you want to add, you can. Do you have a big picture goal or dream you hope to accomplish through your writing and being an author?
I really do. And it's not like just a dream. Is They're actually dreams. So
Okay.
one of those dreams is to be in schools all across this nation, the United States of America.
Okay.
God birthed that in my spirit to want to be in schools, and that may look like a curriculum, because I do have a master's curriculum. You have to write curriculum, right? They go to writer's
Yes.
gift right there.
Yeah.
So just seeing myself, and I've had so many dreams that I've been in so many different schools across the US. And so I know it's going to happen. And lately I've been doing a lot of author visits to different schools this year. I prayed a prayer, either was at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, and God has really just been opening doors for me to like really go into schools, have author visits, being able to speak and do motivational speaking to students. And so I really love that, because I will always have, like, as part of my ministry, I will always have a ministry to children in whatever aspect that God would say that I'm supposed to serve them in any particular season. But the number one thing is I'm called to intercede for our youth. But that's one of them. The second dream is I see myself writing for screen and writing plays and actually producing and directing those plays. I see that. And so in due season, it's going to happen. I see my books everywhere, reaching hands across the nations, in whatever various form that looks like. But I have a bigger goal, and I see a lot of books being birthed regularly, because the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And God had to show me too that your journey is not going to look like other people's journey, because I want you doing something different. and it is new and it is out the box. And so he purposely allows like certain platforms to reject me, because he's like, I'm building something through you, because what you're going to do, you're going to serve a whole nother group of people that other people wouldn't even give attention to. And see, I'm a real huge fan of the underdog. I'm a real huge fan of the whosoever wills. Okay. So anyways, we're gonna leave it at that. But you know me, I'm like, because I can go on and on and on. And then she's like, wait a minute, we started right here, now we're over there, and we're over there, we're over there. Like, I will do that.
That's
So,
good.
so yeah, so
That's
those
good.
are the big pictures that I see, the big dreams that God has given me in my heart. And so interesting, because like when I went to college, my only hope, my only dream was, I'm gonna be an actress. That was it. I was going to Hollywood, baby. I was going to Hollywood. I was going to be rich and famous, and I was going to do this, and I was going to do that, and everybody was going to know me. I'm going to be on a big screen, and God just like totally flipped. He flipped the script on me, and I was like, okay, what's happening? And he was like, you going to teach? I was like, I don't want to teach, like all these things, like I don't want to do that, and fast forward, I see why he placed my feet on those paths, to teach. And even when he told me to teach, he told me at the beginning, he said, you will not retire as a teacher. You'll eventually be doing ministry full time. But I didn't know that ministry wouldn't look like the traditional form of ministry, that it would be creative, that it would look like a business too, that it would look like missionary evangelism, but in a different way. So it really put me in a place where I had to shift my mindset, because my mindset was still stuck within the four walls of that classroom. And at the time, he took away the desire for me to act, but he never took away the desire for me to do voiceover acting. There go my voice again. He bringing into the picture as far as the speaking and stuff. So that's another thing that I greatly still desire to do. And at some point I will be doing voiceovers. And so, but first things first. And so God knows the perfect timing for everything. But, and then I discovered later, just working with youth at our church, and writing scripts and stuff like that I really actually liked directing, and telling the people what to do, how to create the vision that I see for these words that are written on this page, And so anyways, God will change your heart and your mind when you're willing to surrender. And that means that you have to deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow Jesus, and not your own self or your own will or the wills of the enemy. Anyways.
It's so good. I can relate a lot of that. That's so good. Okay. Our next question. When did this go from you doing it personally for yourself, for your own enjoyment, to something that you wanted to start sharing with others?
It was when in 2018, God began showing me a children's book. And he took a very hurtful experience in my life, and he was like, I want you to write about this, but I'm gonna let you write about it, tell your story, but from a little bit different perspective. And so the story from my book, Mommy, Will You Play With Me, which is a book promoting building healthy relationships between parents and children. And it really it really emphasizes the importance of parents taking out time from their busy schedules and spending time with their children. And so I went through a very painful situation with my firstborn child, because my oldest son is my bonus son. And he's an actor in California. He's been living out there for the past 10 years. And so, but my son that I birthed from my womb, he was my first. And I was working all the time. Like I was so busy, like at the school, helping other people's children, that my own children were being neglected. And I say him, or can I just say my own child, because before I had my daughter, it's almost a 7-year difference between them. So I had him for a while before she came in the picture.
Yeah.
And so I, like, by the time I would get home, because I would be at the school till 8 o'clock at night, principals would be gone, all the other teachers would be gone. I'm still working on things, okay, calling parents, just doing the most. Just put it like that, doing the most. And that's a whole different story to minister to someone, especially healing and deliverance, for another day. But I just couldn't seem to get away from the school because it just seemed there was so much to do, and I didn't know how to stop it, and I didn't know how to set boundaries and say no, and all of these things. And so I missed out a lot of time with my son. And by the time I would get home, I was too tired for everybody. I was too tired for my husband. I was too tired for my children, because even at some point later on, our oldest son, my bonus son, came to live with us. And so it was very painful because my son came here strong-willed. He was birthed in this world strong-willed. So he's always had his own mind and his own way of thinking. And so he could put two and two together. He's like, okay, you don't have time for me, then I don't want to have time for you. When I finally come around trying to have time, and he's shutting down, don't want to talk to me. And so it hurt, because it's like, now I'm really seeing, the effects of my negligence, and now I'm trying to fix it, and he doesn't want to fix it. And so, but I thank God, because I didn't give up on our relationship. And I feel teary-eyed right now, because God really can work amazing things if you don't give up on your relationship. Do not give up on your children. Even when it's hard, do not give up on them, because God is a master of working on the inside of people and changing hearts and changing minds, even of those who have the toughest mindsets and the toughest hearts. And so, with that being said, so when I had my daughter, I knew I needed to do things differently. And so now that I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm no longer at the school, I still go and sub at the school sometimes, because I like to serve. And until God tells me that I'm through doing that, I will keep doing that, being a service to teachers, because I will always be an advocate for educators too, the four walls educators. And but now my family, they see so much of me. I work from home, and they see me, they get to communicate with me. I get to, my schedule is flexible. So if that means that I might be working at 1:30, 1:30 in the morning to like 4 o'clock in the morning, just so I can be able to go to my daughter's game, at 6 o'clock or something like that, then that's what I'm able to do. It affords me, that flexibility. And so, God is the one who brought the idea for me to do a children's book first, and to particularly tell that story. But in the story, even though the relationship strain was between me and my son, he wanted me to do a mother and a daughter in the story. And so you have Chloe and her mommy in the story. And so, but I just got the opportunity to read my story, because this month is National Reading Month. And so I got a chance at the last school I was at earlier this month to read my book. I don't always get to read my book, because sometimes I do. My author visits look different at different schools. It just depends on what they're looking for. And so at the last one, I actually read, to the students, I read my book, Mommy, Will You Play With Me? I was asking the kids questions in between and making connections so that they could really relate to the story. And it was just a beautiful thing. And I got a lot of feedback that they were like, thank you for sending the author to our school. And they were talking about the story. I was like, yes. And just like, I'm like, it's that first, but you have to obey God, because let me tell you this, Brittany, if it were up to me, my first book would not have been a children's book. If I got to choose what I wanted to write first, I would have written a novel. And I do have a novel coming eventually, but I would have written a novel. But God told me to write this children's book and tell that story. And I will say that because I obeyed him, it's at that point that I'm offered a lot of opportunities to go places. And so, and to go into places. And since he's been giving me, over the past several years, all these visions and these dreams about being in all these different schools, it makes all the sense in the world now. It didn't make sense to me in the beginning when I still wanted to do my own thing. I was like, I don't want to write a children's book first. You know, especially after working with children and stuff. Like I want to write. But anyways, I just thank God for being God, and He knows so much better than we do. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that was so good. Okay. I feel like you answered this, but I'll ask, and if you have anything, then you can add to it.
Okay.
Take us from you having this creative idea to actually beginning to share it with people. Like, what were some of the first steps you did to start the process of not just having it be you, but sharing it with others? I feel like you kind of answered it, but
Really, I will say that the sharing my gift really started way back, even when I was a child, you know, from writing lyrics, because I do write songs. I'm not gifted to sing, even though I like to sing, but that's not my gift. Um, but I can write some songs, okay? And just open, because I used to be a rapper, okay? Back in the day, you know, when I was a teen. I used to be a rapper, so I would write raps and stuff like that, lyrics, and that's poetry, that's flowing, right?
yeah.
So
Yep.
I would share it. I'd be like, "Ooh, you know, we were beatboxing back then, you know, thinking we were really doing something, but in our own heads, we were doing something. Okay, we're being creative." Um, and then just sharing my gift, like how I shared my journal with my classmate, and she got a chance to read what I wrote. From writing, I would even write. I remember one particular, and this just a little bit, you know, during my teaching years, there was a lady who won an award for something, and she had to write an essay. Well, she was nominated for an award, but it was like a competition, but she had to submit an essay. And so I wrote her essay for her, and she won. So, and just like I've been doing all kinds of writing for a long time, helping people, sharing it with people. And so, as far as like me sharing it as an author, that journey began in 2018 when God gave me the vision to write the children's book. And then He connected me to the right people to start doing that, because my first book, I went through a hybrid method, publishing method. And so the hybrid method is when you go through it like a small publisher, and they allow you to keep all the rights to your books, and they just help you, you know, in the journey. But in that, I learned how to do some things on my own, and then I will go to a self-publishing class where I learned to self-publish, and then I'm like, okay, now I know how to do this myself, you know. And so, because I'm always learning, because if I'm going to write, let me write, and not only let me write, but let me learn enough so that I can also instruct other people who want to be on the same journey, because I'm not just getting it for myself. I have to help pull others along, you know, like Harriet Tubman. She went back to free the other slaves. It wasn't enough for her to be free on her own, you know, for herself. She had to go back and get some other people free too. And so I can't tell you how many times people tell me they want to write a book. And now some people, I'll be honest with you, they waste your time. And so I've come to a season where you're not wasting my time, because my time is precious and valuable. Either you want to do this or you don't. And I'm gonna be able to identify quickly if you want to do this, and then I'm gonna cut you off, okay? Because you're not serious. My time is valuable. I don't have time to play. If we're gonna do this, let's do this, okay? And and if you're gonna keep talking to me, wasting my time, saying you want to write a book and you're still not writing it, that's a problem, okay? So my ear's gonna be somewhere else, and I had to learn how to be tough in a nice way. You know, I had to be tough in a nice way, because people will waste your time, people will drain you, then you can't even do what you're supposed to do. So I'm gonna leave that at that. But when I published my first book and really started getting out there with the message, and then published my other books in my journals, and I just started putting myself out there. I said, people don't know what I do if I'm not out there. And God had already dealt with me about going on social media. Before, in 2017, when He called me out of the four walls of the classroom to, you know, embark upon this new journey, um God had taken me off of social media for a whole year, because when I first got on social media, I was on there for all the wrong reasons. I was trying to post a picture, get some likes. Let's just tell the truth. A lot of people doing that, but that's where I was, just nonsense. And so the Holy Ghost said, "Get off," and He said it very firmly. So I knew He wasn't playing. So I didn't hesitate. So I got off, and I was off of social media for a whole year. And then God's dealing with me about entrepreneurship, the marketplace and ministry. And I'm like, okay, this stuff is different. Nobody's around here talking about that where I live. So I feel out of place. People think I'm going crazy because I'm on this journey now. And I was like, he sent me to a conference in Chicago that was hosted by Pastor Bill Winston. And it was the Ministry and Marketplace Conference. And so I went to Chicago to this conference, and God spoke to me so much. But one of the classes that I attended was a social media class. And when I left there, God was really dealing with me. He's like, it's not about because I was like, I still don't want to go on social media. I don't want to do that, because literally He purged me of that. And He told me, Holy Spirit said, it's not a matter of whether you want to be on social media or not. He said, you must go on there, because He said that's where the people are. And He said, I need my lights everywhere. And so when He started dealing with me about that, okay, I had to change my mindset. And so I started going on social media and really just being present. And He started leading me on how to talk about what I do, and not be afraid to talk about it. And I got some slack, and I got some negative comments and attitudes from that, because people were like, and when I say people, I'm talking about the people in my area who weren't used to God working in the marketplace and in the creative space. And they were like, what are you doing? You're on social media all the time. Why are you on there? And why are you doing this? You're just flaunting yourself. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I was like, you don't tell the world, or you don't tell the devil that he's just flaunting himself when he's advertising all this wicked stuff to our children and to us.
Yep.
And so it really has to be a mindset shift. And only God can do that for you when He's called you to like kingdom ministry into the marketplace like that. And so now I've just learned how to stand on my 2 feet in Christ and say, okay, God, I'm rolling with you, even if that means everybody leaves my side. I'm staying with you. I'm sticking with you. So let's do this.
Yes. Once again, good.
Let's do it.
Okay. Last question, and then we'll do some get to know you questions.
Okay.
So, if someone is interested in taking their gift and taking it from just something personal to sharing it with others, what would be something that you would say to them to encourage them? So you can tell them something like practical that they can do, or if you want to encourage their heart because maybe they're afraid or they're
Yeah.
excited but they're nervous, or so you can go either way, or you can answer both.
I know. I'll just say, just do it. I'll do like that, the Nike check. Just do it. And, some people say, do it afraid. Sometimes you do have to do it afraid, just trusting that the Lord will order your steps as you go. And you have to commit yourself to doing it. Like if you say you want to write, or you're a writer, then a writer should be writing. And you can't, and if you want to be an author, you can't spend 10 years and then it turns into 15 and 20 years. And then, now it's time for you to go on to glory. And you say, well, I wanted to, but no, we can go ahead and do this thing right now. It's going to take discipline to do it. That means, because when you write, it takes a whole different level of focus. And so that means you might have to get away. You might have to take a little weekend trip so you could just focus on the writing. You have to be intentional about blocking out time for you to write. That might mean, like for me, sometimes it means I might have to get up really early before my house starts stirring, before everybody gets up. So that might mean I might be up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning writing, because that's the way I'm able to get it done, because I know once everybody's awake, then people are going to be pulling at me, for things. And then they're going to be barging in, even with a sign on the door that says, do not disturb. They still busting in, like, just no respect. But so you have to solve the problem if you're going to really do this thing. And I just want to encourage you right now. Back 2 years ago, God said, this is the season for the kingdom writer. So he is calling the kingdom writers to rise up, own the creative gifts that he's given you, use them for his glory. So that means that you're going to have to be intentional about using them. As you go, he will help you along the journey. And even and sometimes the enemy, let me tell you, the enemy is going to attack you. Sometimes you're going to have foggy brain. It's like, now, this stuff didn't start happening until I started seriously trying to write. I'll tell you something that happened to me, and I don't want you to be discouraged, because when you are writing for God's glory, you have to remember the enemy is coming for you. The Bible already tells us that we are not ignorant of the devices of Satan. We're not. We know he does not like, forget that. He does not love us. He can't stand us. And when we're working on God's team, he wants to destroy us. And so you have to be prayed up. And you have to have a warrior spirit, like, oh, I don't care what comes, I'm gonna still do this. There were times, y'all look at these hands, when God really dealt with me about seriously writing and to keep on writing. It was 2021. And I was like, oh, I'm getting ready. I'm about to birth these books like this, bam, bam, bam. Do you not know? My hands started hurting, like out of the blue. Like they were doing fine, like nothing was wrong with them. Now, I had carpal tunnel at one point in my life from when I had my daughter, and I carried her a lot. And so those nerves, got damaged. And so, but then God had healed me from them. But here, all these pains coming back, and now it's not just in the right hand, it's in the left hand too. It's like, where did that come from? To the point where it felt like my fingers were about to pop, that I couldn't write, I couldn't really type. But when I tell you, I would press through the pain, and I would keep typing, I would keep writing through the pain, through the numbness of my hands. I would keep typing, and I would bring on other people, other prayer warriors, because even though I'm a prayer warrior, even though I'm an intercessor, but guess what? We're not in this alone. We are a body, and we're supposed to bear each other's burden. So you need to get you some intercessors and say, look, I need you praying for me as I'm working on this project. I need you praying that I finish this. I need you to pray. Give them specifics to pray about. I thank God for the intercessors that he's given me in my life. Don't be afraid to reach out to people who are going to pray for you, okay? Ask God to guide you to those people. And then sometimes God will just lay you on other people's heart, and you don't even realize that somebody's already interceding for you. But kingdom writers, rise up. No more excuses. Do what the Father has called you to do. Do it confidently. And just be you. Do it authentically. Be you. He's not asking you to be anybody else. Like the type of person I am, I can have like this high energy, and sometimes people are like, "Ooh, she a little bit too much." But this is who I am, and so I can't be anybody else. And sometimes to some people, I might sound like I'm not intelligent, even though I'm highly intelligent. I know that. And sometimes I speak a little bit too fast, and my words get blurred together. And sometimes I create new words. But guess what? When I tell you the amount of people's lives that I've impacted, and people who have reached out to me, even people who will never, like when I write content on social media, people who would never comment, they wouldn't even like or love what I posted for whatever reason. But then when they saw me, or they would send me a private message, they say, I really love the content you're putting out, and you really helped me. It's like you knew exactly what I was going through. I'm like, baby, I'm just following the Holy Ghost, okay? He said, put this, I don't know anything more than what he tells me, but God bless you. To him be the glory. And so just rise up and do it, because here's the thing that God showed me when I wrote my first book, the children's book, Mommy, Will You Play With Me? I did a crowdfunding campaign. And I went on a particular platform. And on that platform, I just one day began browsing the platform. And when I tell you that I saw so many evil works being created, it grieved my spirit so heavily. And the Holy Ghost spoke to me, and he said, it's not going to change. God said, it's not going to change until my children rise up and do what I've created them to do. He said, the world is not going to stop producing. But until my children start doing what I call them to do, there's no way there's going to be an equal playing ground. Because you have to remember, the enemy, he ain't resting. He gonna keep on going. You know what? And they're fueled to do evil things. Even people. And I was like, I'm trying to raise $1,500, and I'm seeing these evil works being funded to the millions of dollars. I'm like, something is wrong with this picture.
Yeah.
But God is faithful. He gives you exactly what you need.
Yes.
To do what he's called you to do. And he'll bring exactly the right people in your life to help you do it.
Yes.
So I'm going to leave it at that. So be encouraged. Rise up, Christian creatives. Rise up. You are needed in this time. God needs his children in every sphere of influence. Every sphere.
Yes. Yes, yes. Well, that's a great way to end the interview. So there you go. This is about creatives. So if your
Yes.
child is creative and you feel like they have a gifting, then encourage that, try to nurture that. And if you yourself are creative and you're missing that outlet as a parent, then definitely, do that for yourself. So yeah. So now we're going to get to find out a little bit more about her with just some questions to get to know
Okay.
her. And first question, is there any part about being a writer or an author that you do not care for, or you just straight up don't like it?
Sometimes the actual layout, the discipline that is required of just laying the book out into its different parts and working through that I don't like that. Sometimes I don't mind doing it, but it takes a lot out of me for me to focus and be very disciplined to get it done. Yes. And I will say too, sometimes the marketing aspect of it, putting all of that together to promote what you're doing, because here's the thing, if you don't have the funds to like bring on a whole marketing team or marketer, you got to do it yourself, because you got to get your book out there. You want people to know about it, right? You didn't write the book for it to, you didn't publish the book for it to sit on the shelf and collect dust, right? People need to hear your story, whatever, if it's a nonfiction story or a fictional story. If it's a journal, they need to be able to engage with that journal. And so we have to push through those things. So sometimes the marketing part can be really hard because it's trial and error. But I've learned so much more than I knew at the beginning. I tell people on this journey, I've acquired a whole new set of skills that I did not have at all in the beginning.
That is so good, because I think people have a creative gift that's easy, that they can do in
Yeah.
their sleep, but then to actually get it out, like you said, there's a whole nother set of things that you're going to have
Yes,
to learn,
ma'am.
and that can like squash the desire to even want to. But it's like you got to do it.
To
So
do
yeah,
it.
I run into that with people when I talk to them about
Yeah,
things that they want to do. So
you
yes, I'm
got to
glad you
do
said.
it. Ah.
What is an assumption that people have about you as a writer or an author that you have to correct them on? Or maybe it's something that they think an author and writer is like this, and you don't live up to that, like you're different.
Well, I will say that if you say you are a writer, they think that you should you should be writing any and everything, or that, but I don't write any and everything. I am more of a creative writer, and I know that's like my space. I'm also more of a spiritual writer. When it comes to like copywriting, doing news releases, press releases, writing that type of stuff, um, writing emails for other people. I don't do that. Look, I'm struggling to write my own emails. Okay. I'm like, I do not want to write nobody else's emails for them, because look, I'm having a hard time writing my own emails and getting them out consistently. Let's just tell the truth, right?
Yeah.
But you talk about creative things. Let's write. Look, let me write a skit. Let me write a play. Let's write a poem. Let's write a song. Let's write a novel. Let's create a journal. I'm like more of the artsy like side of things.
Yeah.
And so, but then there are other things that I will write for. Like I had a person approach me. They were interested in adopting a child, and there's a long writing process that's involved with that. I'm passionate about things like that. So of course I would help you. If you're in school, you're trying to, finish, and you're having a hard time with the research and things of that. I love research. I do. And getting ideas on how to put those things together. I like doing that. But some of
Yeah.
those other things, I don't like doing that. And then sometimes they're always, people are always looking, they're being really nitpicky when you write, as if you cannot make mistakes. So like, look at this writer, you're a writer, you got this wrong. It's like sometimes I write it so fast and I don't get a chance to proofread, and I know I need to, but I didn't. And so even like in some of my posts, but that's another story for another day when I tell you what I really believe going on. But I'm gonna get off of that soapbox. But anyways, I will go back and edit something about 5 times until I see everything is right. I'm like, okay, Facebook changing some of this stuff up on me now. I know I had this spell right. Let me just tell the truth. Now look,
Yeah.
y'all need to get it together, Facebook. I'll be changing up my stuff. But there's some misconceptions too, that they just expect you to write perfectly with no mistakes, or like that. And so that's all I really see, them thinking you should write everything and be interested and willing to write everything. No, I had to draw the line. And I don't write grants. Look, I'm trying to find somebody to write a grant for me. Look, I don't write. I don't do that. That's not the technical writing. I don't do technical writing. If it's nothing like, like I express about, helping you adopt a child, helping you finish school.
Yeah.
That's about the extent of that.
Yeah. Where or how do you find inspiration to write?
Woo! I love observing people and nature and things. I love watching movies and picking up things from movies. When I say, because some of the things I see, like I'm very, very analytical. So like when I watch a movie, I'm not just watching a movie. Like I'm comparing it, like we're doing compare and contrast, because I'm like the nerd, I'm like, remember the other movie, and then there are similarities right here, and then the differences. So let's compare and contrast, and then let's talk about the main character and what's really going on, and the antagonist and like all of these things. And so, I don't know. I lost my train of thought right there. I'm just telling the truth. I got carried away talking about that.
Where or how do you find inspiration to write?
Oh, and that was some of the ways I find inspiration, but the main one is inspiration from God. When I know I'm being moved by the Holy Spirit to get a particular work done, He
Yeah.
inspires me to write what I'm writing. And so, and that may be like He nudges me early in the morning and say, "Get up, it's time to write." And so during that time, it's flowing freely. If I obey Him, it's flowing freely. But if I miss that opportunity, then I'm kind of stuck until I'm re-inspired, or He taps me, a week later and say, now get up. Now you're like a week behind, but you could have got it back then, but you were being lazy and you want to cling to those sheets. And so anyways, but He gives me a lot of my inspiration. But again, like I said, I like observing people. I like observing nature, because those things give you inspiration, especially when you're writing poetry, when you're writing a novel, because you want that vivid language when you write those particular types of works. And you have to be an observer to be able to, to get that. And also a listener, because if you just be still for a moment, you can hear all the different sounds in the environment. So that when you write those onomatopoeias, those sound words in your novel or in your poem, it's like, okay, I remember this and this is what it sounded like. And so, yeah.
That's good. What do you love most about being a writer and or an author?
I love meeting people, and I love positively impacting the lives of other people. I'm such a people person, even though I'm equally introverted and extroverted, because at any given moment, like, okay, I just want to be by myself. I just want to be with a book and playing a word game just by myself. And I don't want to be around any people right now, nothing against the people. I just want to be by myself right now.
Yeah.
But I love just meeting new people. I love traveling to the different schools, the different vendor events, the different author opportunities that I get. Like in June, I've been asked to be one of the instructors for a writer symposium, an author symposium. And so I'm really excited about that, because education, I will always be an educator. I didn't know it at first when God popped my bubble, burst my bubble, and said, no, you're not going to Hollywood. You're going to Hempstead to go teach. I'm like, oh no, God. But I love, like I said, I have to learn this, not just for myself, but for other people too, so that I can go back and get those people and help bring them along the journey as well. And so, and let me look, the serious people. I told you, not wasting my time. ah,
Okay. What is a product, group, service, training, anything that has helped you hone your gift as a writer and or an author?
being in Facebook writing groups, that has helped me. Getting help from other people, like when you start the journey, getting help from somebody else. Like I couldn't have seen myself self-publishing the first time around. Like I
Okay.
really needed that support from that publisher to do the work, and to just guide me along the journey, and that helped build my confidence. I'm not afraid to buy trainings and take courses and things, because you have to invest in your craft. Everything is not going to be free. And I think a lot of times people just want everything for free, but it's going to cost you. Some things are going to cost you, and it's worth the price that you pay, because it helped make your journey a little bit easier, or easier, just across the board. And to be able to glean from those who have already gone before you, so that you don't have to go through some things, make the same mistakes. That's worth it. That's worth the cost. And so I've never been afraid to invest in myself, whereas a lot of people are. So you have to keep nurturing your gift. You have to keep sharpening your skills, because you have to remember things are constantly changing. But at the same time, as a writer, you have to be true to yourself. As far as like certain things, it's hard for me to bring in people, like when I do like social media writing. You have social media people who are over, the entrepreneurs, social media. There are certain things I will not allow people access to. Like, you can help me with this, but you can't help me with that, because God has given me a unique voice that when somebody else try to come in and mimic it, people automatically know that's not me.
Yeah.
And they're connecting with me because God had made it. Like, I remember having my business logo on my business Facebook page, and the Holy Spirit dealt with me very seriously, and he said, you need to put a picture of yourself on your business Facebook page. He said, people connect with you. They don't connect with your logo. They know you. You're the people person that they connect with, and then they become, develop a relationship with you, and they keep supporting you because it's you. And so he had to help me to understand those things as well. Because even now I'm in the process of getting ready to revamp my website. And you know what, your website is always, changing, evolving into, as you grow, it changes and stuff. It's like, okay, now we're going to do this with the website. So you visit my website, now 2 months from now, a month from now, it might look different, because I'm always changing, as far as like, I still have my services, the same services, but things are changing. And so you have to upgrade, So anyways, yeah.
Okay. 2 more questions and then we're done.
Okay.
What is your ideal creative environment or routine to write?
I love quietness,
Okay.
because my brain is hyper. The doctor said I have ADD. Okay. And they tried to prescribe me some medication. I might have taken the medication one time, and then I threw the rest away. I was like, you know what? I don't feel comfortable with you telling me, like, if you get on this medication, you have to get off it slowly and don't just get off it by yourself. Like, I don't like the way that sound, because you have to remember that I used to teach and I worked with students who had special needs. They had special learning. They had learning disabilities, and I saw kids on medication, and I watched them, turn into zombies. I absolutely loved their personalities, and that personality was gone when they were on the medication. And I said, you know what? Before they started making all these diagnoses, I said, my brain has always been hyper like this. I knew as a child that I learned differently. And even though I was making good grades and stuff like that, there was a whole lot of extra things that I on my own had to do to be able to complete my work and focus on my work, because my brain was like, and I generate ideas like this. And so even to the point where it's caused me to lose sleep and stuff. So because it's just on and turning, and it's like, and it doesn't have to be stress. It could just be ideas just keep flowing. Like, oh, and then, like, I literally have a running record of writing ideas. And I'm like, Lord, not in this lifetime or in the next lifetime can I really write all of this stuff, that. And I was like, it would be real cool, if I could sell ideas, because I could tell people you need to do this and do that. And I was like, I'd be a millionaire, multi-millionaire right now if I could just sell ideas, because that's how my head works.
Yeah.
So for me, I need a quiet environment. I can't work with music, and I love music, but it creates noise where I can't focus. A lot of sounds in the environment, I can't work like that. So I have to have utter quietness. Like, I just need quietness. And that's why a lot of times I work early in the morning, like at 2:00, 3:00, when everything is pretty much settled. Yeah.
Okay. And last question, who is an author or writer that you admire or are even blown away by? So when you see or when you read their work, you just think, man, they are truly talented or gifted.
I'm going to say this, and I have to go, because we love to get really spiritual about things, but I was never hugely like the romance type of girl, even though I used to read stuff like that, but not hardly. I've always been like a suspense thriller type of person. Even in the movies, I like action, I like thriller, I just like high speed chase. Like, I used to imagine myself being in a movie where I'm on this high speed chase, I'm running, jumping off of buildings and stuff, like, woo. But but Dean Koontz, oh my goodness, the first book that I read in high school, one of my classmates gave it to me, because, like I said, I've always been a writer. From the moment I learned how to read, I've always been a reader. I prefer reading over watching TV any single day, hands down. I love reading. And so, but back then as a child, I read a lot for pleasure. I don't read a lot for pleasure now. I read a lot for information now. But Dean Koontz was one of my favorite authors. Like, the way he could put those things together, the words and the action and the deep suspense and the character development and the scenes, and just everything was like, oh my goodness. And so I probably have more books by him than anybody else. And then I came to find out, because my dad, my biological father, loves to read too. And so we found out later on along the journey that he too liked Dean Koontz. And so he started buying me these books while I was also buying books. And I was like, okay, when is the next one coming out? And so Dean Koontz would be one of the people that I really like, just think is an amazing writer. Also, I think I'm saying the name correctly. Is it J.R. Tolkien? But this is the person who wrote The Lord of the Rings. Before the movies even came out, when I was a teen, I read The Hobbit, and I was like, oh my God, because I love fantastical stuff, like those, like, imagine that vibrant imaginary environments where it's so colorful. And so I loved reading that series. And so just the way they developed this world, this whole new world with all of these people and the journey that they were going on, it was just so amazing. It's just so amazing. So those are my people.
Okay. Well, that's it. You made it.
Yay! Thank you so much. Thank you so much for allowing me to share.
Absolutely. I was just going to say thank you to you. Oh my goodness. I have enjoyed this. This has been so good.
Whoop,
So
whoop.
I'm doing this interview because hopefully if you see that your child is creative, I hope that you would foster that in them and encourage them in that. But then also if you are a parent and you're looking for a creative outlet and you think, man, I have something in me that I want to get out also, then you can be encouraged that way too. So either way, I hope you are encouraged and challenged, because she said some stuff in there that hopefully you got you. But thank you so much for watching. And we're actually going to have her do a parent interview. So come back and check out her parent interview in a couple weeks. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye.